Welcome to the Pizzeria's Edinburgh Derby special, where two Hibs fans and two Jambos get in a room the day before the Derby and try to have a civilised conversation about football. What could go wrong? Today I'm joined by Matty, Adam and Scott. Matty, how you doing today? Are you alright?
Aye, really good, mate. Yeah, good. How about you?
Yeah, not too bad. And listen, we'll save the niceties for the other two. It's Derby weekend after all, eh?
Aye.
Nah, only joking. Adam, how you getting on? You alright?
Yeah, good. Thanks, mate. Nervous about tomorrow, but other than that, not too bad. You?
Not too bad. Scott?
Yeah, very well. Already at that touch and cloth stage as I normally get to when it comes to Derby week, but apart from that, I'm doing all right.
What's your Derby ritual, Scott? What'd you go through in the morning?
Normally to try and avoid talking about it for a couple of days prior to it. But I normally try and watch some old games. You try and sort of pump yourself up because especially this season, we haven't been particularly very good in the last two Derby games in terms of performance and results. So you normally try and watch some older games to try and sort of, get yourself pumped up for the match, remind yourself that, it is possible to win these games.
What's going on here, Adam? It's usually the Jambos that are the confident bunch. What's happening here?
I don't know. It's perhaps just Hibs in a rich vein of form. It's not nice, and the fact that Scott's alluded to it there, we haven't been up for it in Derby so far this season. Salvaging that equaliser at Easter Road, and then a rare Tynecastle defeat. So yeah, we're not quite as confident as we usually are.
Matty's got this on screen record, for long bangers later on.
I'm not believing what I'm hearing. This is just like it's false modesty, isn't it? Like this is.
100%.
I'm not used to hearing this when we're talking about derbies. But I'll take it, but I'm not believing it.
Listen, I've seen it all before. They're trying to get the niceties in so they don't get recorded the day before. I've seen it all before. Adam, any Derby rituals the day before?
No, just drink as much as you can, and hopefully that will get you through the pain barrier.
Fair enough. What about you, Matty?
I spent probably take a good hour and a half on the toilet, and then head to the game and just hope for the best. They're normally sitting like this for it, so aye.
What's your feel? What do you think the moods in the camp is? You were there on Wednesday night, Matty. Hibs fans feeling confident?
Aye, I mean, we fell into the trap of singing "Bring on the Jambos" at the end of the game, which is like a kiss of death. Like I don't know how people haven't learned about this already. But I mean, we're 14 unbeaten. I think it's one defeat in 16, something like that. The team's on. We ground out the result. We weren't good on Wednesday at all, really, other than maybe the last 15 minutes. But you come away with an important win. We go into fourth. Everybody's buzzing, to be fair.
Yeah, is there an element that you just need to kind of enjoy it while we can? We're never usually that confident going to the derbies. Why not enjoy it for a bit?
It's a funny thing with the derbies, right? So, if you my generation, I grew up in Alec Miller years, so 22 in a row was sort of like my formative derby years were pretty poor, if I'm honest. And I talked to my son about it. He's 21. We have very different outlooks on the derby. I kind of have that lingering. Oh, here we go again, and you sort of almost expect the worst, like snatching a late winner at Easter Road, or somebody going in off somebody's backside and failing to win a game that we probably should. And I was speaking to my son, he's like, we beat them. Like, he has a totally different outlook on the derby than I do, and his record's better than mine for derbies overall. So I think that there is a shift. Like, I used to worry about the derbies, but I didn't really worry about them anymore. I quite look forward to them. It's not really just a case of kind of getting through it. I'm really looking forward to tomorrow. And, like, we might lose, but we've lost derbies before. I can live with that. But we might win, and it's brilliant when you win.
Well, he's not a late 90s kid like myself that went through the sheer anxiety of the early 2000s.
Yeah.
But the only ritual that I've got is on about Friday, about 5 p.m. Yeah, I get a text off my Jambo pals and say, listen, I'll see you on the other side. If I don't speak to you next week, I'll maybe be the week after. And that's the only one we've got. Adam, Hibs is, I think it's fair to say, we're the better team the last time out. What's going to be different this time?
I think January editions have hopefully helped Hearts when it comes to Easter Road. I know that, of course, you then have that kind of adage where they don't have the experience of an Edinburgh Derby. They've never played in an Edinburgh Derby. But I think you need only look at the impact of Jamie McCart, Michael Steinvender at the back. I think Elton Kabangu's been a really good January addition. And it seems like we're basically kind of having our first few hidden gems of the Jamestown analytics and the first couple players that Neil Critchley can actually sign for Hearts. So I'm hoping that these additions can prove the difference when it came to obviously defeat on Boxing Day.
How do you think they'll approach the game, Scott? Do you think it'll be think there'll be a different setup from Critchley as it was on Boxing Day?
Possibly. We've tended to sort of stick with a bit more of a sort of 4-4-2, but it's a bit of a diamond midfield formation. So Shanklin's starting to drop deep, and then you've got Wilson and Cabangu sort of playing on the shoulder of the centre half. So it is going to be a slightly different setup to what you've seen in the previous derbies. I think, given how we've been playing recently, and given the fact that Joe Newell and Dylan Levitt are both out for Hibs, I'm not expecting a lot of control from either team. I think the ball's going to get turned over quite a lot. I don't think either midfield have got the personnel to probably control the game for any great sort of lengthy time. So I don't think it's going to be a game where you're going to see teams sort of just play it, side to side. I think it is going to be pretty direct from both sides, and hopefully, for a neutral standpoint, that'll mean a sort of better game of football. Because let's be honest, the derbies over the last few years haven't been a game for the purists at all.
This is the thing, Matty. We're not Old Firm fans. We're not obsessed with each other, so we don't watch each other's games in Edinburgh. Really, is there anyone that you look over that Hearts team and think, I'm a bit concerned about them tomorrow?
I don't know. Like the new striker that's come in seems to be getting a few goals. I sort of kind of forget his name. Is Kabanga? Is that him?
Kabanga.
Yep. Kabanga. Sorry. I thought I turned into Andy Walker for a minute there. Yeah, obviously he seems to have kind of hit the ground running at Hearts. Craig Gordon always has a good game against Hibs. Like he seems to be sort of,
I don't say
almost
that again.
magnetic, where we can kind of kick the ball anywhere and it sort of bends towards him and bounces off the guy. So, but I don't know. Like when I watched Hearts on Boxing Day, I didn't think they were terrible, but I didn't think they were brilliant either. I didn't think they were, there was much between the teams. We were just like a little bit better on the day. And I think if you look at the form of both teams now, I think that, there's a cigarette paper between them, really.
Yeah, I mean, admittedly, I watched the last half hour and extra time and penalties of Hearts game versus St Mirren, waiting on the draw a few weeks ago, Adam. I was just thinking to myself, Craig Gordon has saved them again. I am sick of that guy. See the difference for Hearts at the moment?
Defensively, arguably, yeah, but then there's still a kind of lingering debate amongst Hearts fans. Should Xander Clark be our number one? Is this the beginning of the end for Craig Gordon? So I think it depends on who you ask. I think it's offensively we've looked much better, to be honest. The addition of Cabangu, I think James Penrice and Blair Spittle have adopted a really good relationship down the left-hand side, albeit we can't quite find something similar on the right. So offensively, we look a lot sharper, and yeah, Craig Gordon has his tetchy moments, but he can pull out a stunning save every now and then, which obviously does help.
I've heard about the Hearts fans, the Gorgie boo. I've heard is really bad. Scott, has there been any calls for Critchley to leave yet, or is that waiting until another derby defeat?
I think most of the fans are pretty much on board with him by this stage. I think in terms of his own individual arc, I think getting a result on Sunday would really cement his sort of standing amongst the majority of the fans, because that's been the two games probably since he's came in where we really have failed to turn up. We just didn't play well in either match, and I think there's reasons for that in terms of certain players being off form and then not having any sort of pace or physicality in the wide areas or up top, which we now have. So I'm hoping to see a difference due to the fact that we have brought players in since those last couple of matches. But I think the majority of the fans are on side with him. But you know how fickle football fans are. You lose a derby and people will always start to question that. Even Hibs and Hearts managers who have got their teams to third place in the past, if they don't win these big matches, that eventually comes back against them. Jack Ross had that labelled against him at times. So it is something that he does need to start to rectify, and hopefully Sunday will be the start of it.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm sure the Nielsen banner was when you were second. Have I remembered that wrong?
So we were third at that time. I think, to be fair to the Robbie Nielsen stuff, that one's grew arms and legs. The whole sort of plain banner was paid for by about 6 fans, and that actually did get booed out that day. I think we were playing at home to Partick Thistle or something when that banner came out. I would say though that when he came back the second time round, he did manage to sort of fix that issue that he had in terms of the big matches. But the money spinner comment was probably the one that he'll probably regret himself coming out with.
As a lot of the anger in Hearts fans, Adam, maybe been above the manager's post in recent seasons.
Yeah, probably. When you see how well we're run off the park, then yeah, you sort of question why we don't have a winning team on it necessarily. But that being said, we have had some successful seasons recently. Getting into the Europa League Conference Group stage on a couple of occasions. So yeah, it depends on how you look at it. I think we're just we're lacking in patience a wee bit, aren't we? And I think that's just the modern football fan now. Anyway, it has to be immediate success here and now. Otherwise, we're not waiting for 5 seasons, 10 seasons, however long down the line.
Similarities, Matty, in terms of the story Hibs and Hearts have went through. Obviously, there was talk of protests outside the ground at Easter Road earlier on this season. There was calls for all the board to go, including Ian Gordon. But since then, Ian Gordon's put his money where his mouth is. Sir David Gray's, turned the team around. It's been a tale of two halves in this season for Hibs.
Yeah, I think the turning point for Hibs was when Block 7 turned their banner upside down. I mean, if there's one way to show that you're furious about things, it's make an upside down banner. And it sort of coincided with their form picking up. Not that I'm superstitious, I didn't really believe in these things, but they better not turn it around on Sunday. That's all I'm saying. But I think, it's been a really turbulent season for Hibs and the board. Obviously, they posted the big losses, which aren't great. Obviously, covered by Ian Gordon. That it's not really a risk to the club that they've done that. Ben Kensel leaving, so there's a bit of boardroom upheaval. But I think that's a popular decision. Like, Ben wasn't really widely liked by anybody really at Hibs. Like Ian Gordon liked him, but you'd have to go somewhere to find fans that liked him. Whether that's fair or not is another story. But you've had this kind of talk of protests, people wanting the board out. It all quietens when you start winning games, though. There's nobody talking about protesting against the board just now. Other than an upside down banner, everybody's kind of pretty happy with the way things are going. Even Malky Mackay, who gets it tight for being Malky Mackay because of his history, even he's not really getting shots taken at the moment. So it just shows you, football fans are really fickle. If you get the results right on the pitch, then you're laughing.
Yeah. To give them credit, they get their criticism when they're due criticism. Do they get enough praise when they're due the praise? Ian Gordon has put seven large into the club as a donation. Malky Mackay has brought in 3 players that have been outstanding this season, i.e. Kieran Bowie, Nicky Cadden and Jack Iredale. Are they due a bit more praise that they're getting?
I think probably on the recruitment side, yes. I'm kind of loath to give Ian Gordon praise for putting his money. They buy a football club. If you buy a football club, you got to pay for it. And if you can't run it properly, then it's on you to fix it. I have. It sounds like a churlish thing to say, but I have very little gratitude that he's putting the money in to fix his mess. That just seems to be the thing you should do. It shouldn't fall on the fans to bail the club out for it being run poorly. But that said, it's a lot of money. It looks like we've got the right things in place now to sort of stop that happening going forward. I know I was at the AGM on Tuesday night, and there's going to be a big loss next year as well. They sort of said that's inevitable because of the sort of historic mess, but beyond that, it looks like a pretty good picture at Hibs. So hopefully they've got the off the park stuff sorted out, and then you can start looking at giving folk credit. But I think we haven't achieved anything yet as well. We're on a good run, but the season doesn't end in February or March. You need to see where you are at the end of the season, and then you can sort of assess how well folk have done.
But it can't be a coincidence that a man in charge that knows the club, that succeeded at the club, is having an impact on these players. He can properly relate to these players what it means to wear that jersey. Surely that's making a big difference.
Oh, absolutely. I think Gray's been fantastic. He had this rocky spell, obviously, right, and it's well documented and well spoken about, but he was super consistent all the way through that. He was never too high, never too low. The underlying performances were pretty good. We didn't get the results, but if you looked at, folk laugh at it, but your XG tables and everything, Hibs were always pretty decent in that. The balance of play was pretty good, but what we did was we shot ourselves in the foot at the end of games consistently and dropped. I think it's 16 points from winning positions this season. So having somebody like Gray, I think my gut feeling on Gray was on paper it looked like a bad appointment because he never had the qualifications, he didn't have the experience. But if you look at the guy, he has everything that you would expect a good quality manager to have, and I think we're seeing that now. The team is absolutely an image of David Gray. The spirit, the fight, the quality, the consistency. It's all there, and that is down to David Gray.
Scott, if you're a betting man tomorrow, what are you placing a bet on in terms of goals, in terms of cards? What do you think the game will be like tomorrow?
I mean, in terms of the result, if you're going to say to a neutral to put a bet on, you just have to look at the fact that Hearts have only won 1 of the last 7, but we've only lost 2 of the last 16. So that points you towards a draw in terms of how tight the games have been over the last few years. I'm not expecting it to be an overly competitive or physical game. I think both sides will get stuck in, but in terms of red card moments, I'm not really expecting that. Goals, it just depends. I think Hibs are quite happy for the opposition to have the ball in these types of games. I was at the Hibs Celtic game last week at Easter Road. Also watched the Hibs Aberdeen game recently as well, and I don't think Hibs are overly fussed about having control of the game.
So pause there. A Hearts fan at the Hibs Celtic game. Am I hearing that right?
I had to take my son. He's got a season ticket, so I had to take him along to that one. But
Pure soul.
Well, he was happy last week anyway.
I can't believe you were going to slip that under the radar as if that was a normal thing to say.
It's a normal thing to say. It's fine. It's fine. Celtic got beat. It was fine for me. It didn't bother me. Hibs get beat, Celtic get beat. It's a win-win situation for me. But I think having options like Bowie and Boyle up top means that they're quite happy to sort of, just lob balls in behind the centre halves and behind the back four that Hearts have, and just sort of chase the game from there. You then got Josh Campbell sort of feeding off the scraps in that number 10 position as well. So I think from a Hibs point of view, they'll be quite happy for Hearts to just have possession in their own half. I think the difference now between this game and the last couple of games is Hearts themselves have turned into more of a direct team. And if we do go with that sort of front three, I think we'll be quite happy to just sort of press the game as high up the park as we can and sort of move the ball into those areas as quickly as we can as well. There's options now to play balls in the channels in between the centre halves, which we haven't had in the last 2 derbies. It's been pretty much trying to find Shankland and then finding the support from him from the wide areas, whereas now you've got Wilson and Cabangu sort of playing on the shoulders of the centre halves, and that's probably going to be where the game could be won or lost for us.
What do you think then, Adam? Under 2.5?
I'd go over 1.5 as opposed to that. I think you're always better hoping for more rather than kind of.
You're not one of these betting mans that put on a 5 at a return 6, are you?
No, that's not me. No. Big stakes, big returns. That's what we're after.
Well, there's going to be a few matchups tomorrow, Matty, that'll be interesting. Listen, I was going to get you to do your 11, but I'm not going to pretend it's going to be completely binary, depending on whether you're a Hibs or a Hearts fan. Going to be some good matchups tomorrow, but Rocky, Bashiri and Shanklin's always an interesting one. I think Rocky had he had a terrible mistake in the last derby, but certainly for big spells in the game, he had the better of Shanklin's. Do you think that's going to be a problem for Hibs tomorrow? Where do you see the matchups?
Well, I think Scott was talking about the Hearts front three and Hibs play a back three, with the 3 centre halves. So I think that's going to be sort of key to the game. I actually really like the back three the Hibs have got just now. Ahora, Rocky, and Iredale. The 3 of them have been in, like touchwood, really good form.
Ahora as well.
Ahora's gone under the radar. Like he had a rocky start, no pun intended. And he fell out the team, but since he's come back in, I think he's been really steady.
Come on!
Probably underappreciated. Well, I'd say definitely underappreciated. In the same way that Iredale was when he first came into the team as well, because when Iredale signed, people read reviews from his last club and thought they wrote him off right from the start. Iredale's been terrific, and O'Hora has just gone steadily about his business. You go back and watch the game on Wednesday night and watch O'Hora's performance, or the Celtic game and watch O'Hora's performance. He was terrific.
I swear we had the same conversation about Hanlon last time we were on our podcast. Honestly, it's shades of absolute mirror image. Honestly,
Hanlon was fine as well.
Honestly, I don't think he gets out to the ball quick enough. I think he's too slow. I don't think he picks up. Honestly, I just didn't see it.
One of the things I noticed with O'Hora, take the Celtic game for example, and it's something that we've missed previously when we played Celtic. Is that there was a moment, so we played Lewis Miller. Lewis Miller is notorious for losing concentration. Celtic have an overload on Miller's side. Miller gets caught inside it. So Hora that recognises it, talks to the other defenders, and sorts out within seconds. He deals with that situation. It's wee moments like that for Hora that's helping steady the defence. So I think our back three against Hearts front three is probably where from a Hibs perspective, if we can win that battle, then I think we'll win the game.
Well, Jink Adam, is that where Hearts can get Hibs tomorrow in that front three?
I don't see why not. Yeah, I think there will also be a lot of onus on the likes of James Penrice and either Gerald Taylor or Adam Forrester to provide width from the fullback areas. If you're asking me, I'd probably prefer to see Taylor in there, even though he's still got a little bit of a bomb scare moment in that it might be a naughty challenge or just, I don't know if the occasion might overawe him. But then equally in saying that, Adam Forrester's still a young lad, so the right back position is a real problem for me. But yeah, if we could get service into Lawrence Shankland that little bit deeper, James Wilson and Elton Kabangu, then Hearts have got a chance, definitely.
He's been a big disappointment, Scott, isn't he? Lawrence Shankland this season. He's just not really hit the ground running. Has it been the contract situation that's gone his head, or?
I think definitely. I think if you were to look at his body language, particularly actually in the last Derby game, he looked well off it. And I think, you take any human being, and if you were offered 12 months ago 5 figures per week when you were only on about half of that and you reject it, and then 12 months later you're thinking, this is what I could have been making during the last 12 months. I think now...
Was it definitely 5 figures, though? Because, I mean, football fans have always
trust me,
accountants. You know what I mean? Like, football fans love to pluck figures at the air. You know, is it definitely,
including incentives, it would have been up to somewhere between 12 and 14.
12 and 14? No, come on. That's an English wage.
He was wanting 20.
Well, hold on a second. David Abua was on that in the mid-2000s, so...
You've seen Hibs have had players on 10.
Chris Muller was on 9 or 10. Chris Muller was on a good...
Aye, but 14, come on. I know, but you didn't have some daft Lithuanian running the club anymore. Come on, it's not... Surely not. Anyway, sorry, continue, Scott. I just, honestly... I do like to point out...
One of the reasons the deal didn't go through is that his agents were wanting 250 grand, like a normal signing on fee, as if it was a transfer as well. So there's a few reasons why it didn't get signed. I think now that Kabangu and Wilson have came into the team, I think he looks a bit more engaged, and he's playing that deeper role, which he's done before at Hearts when Josh Ginnelly played up top for a few months as well. So it is a role that I think he quite likes to play. There's no requirement for him to be playing on the shouldery players, because let's be honest, one of his biggest weaknesses is the fact that he doesn't have that sort of bursty pace to get away from players. So I think playing him in that deeper role definitely helps in terms of contributing to the squad. He hasn't quite found his goal touch yet, even although he's been playing better. But in terms of assists, he got 2 assists last week against St Johnstone. And again, he played well on Wednesday night against St Mirren as well. So the problems that we did have with Lawrence a few months ago don't appear to be there, albeit there's still issues around whether he'll sign a new contract or not. But I don't think we're in that sort of same place that we were last season and at stages this season where we were wholly dependent on him. We've now got goals and sort of creativity coming from other areas of the pitch.
Adam, Jake, that's frustrating. If you look back at like notable players that went from Hearts to Rangers, like Lee Wallace, for example, that sort of seen his time out and played very professionally and still played to his level at Hearts before he left. It's frustrating to see a player like Shankland sort of bump his gums a wee bit, go through the motions and all that when he's in a Hearts jersey.
I think you need only look at John Souttar's last 6 months at Hearts when he'd already signed that pre-contract with Rangers. That's pretty much how you conduct yourself, isn't it? I agree with what Scott said there about the last derby. I can remember an instance where he basically gets the ball and he just boots it as high into the Gorgie stand as he possibly can. And I'm thinking, what on earth are you doing here? Like, that's supposed to be our skipper. You're wearing that armband. But the irony is, since Elton Kabangu's come in January, and James Wilson's been given more of a chance as well up front, it seems to have taken all the pressure off Lawrence Shankland. Now, I don't know if he's then raging, looking at his teammates thinking, well, I was the main man previously, or if he's then relieved that they've essentially taken the burden off him. So I think these kind of little instances are bound to play on his mind. But he has looked really good at the tip of that midfield diamond. Because I think then he's just got more of the game in front of him. So yeah, I'm hopeful that he can basically make amends with the winner on Sunday. That would be pretty sweet.
Matty, for the first time in a while, I could look at that Hibs team and pick out 5, 6, even maybe 7 players and say they've been absolutely brilliant and they can make a difference tomorrow.
Yeah, the team almost picks itself. We do a wee preview show on a Friday, and it's sort of like a standing joke now that we all pick a team each, and it's sort of redundant because you're maybe like one player out of it that you would swap in or out. So this week you're swapping probably Chris Cadden for Lewis Miller because Cadden's a bit of a better option um, on
On
the
the
right hand
offensive.
side. Yeah. But we have got like some key players like Chantis, who was a massive surprise when we signed Chantis. I thought, what are we doing? Like he played for us last season. We finished 8th, and he struggled to get into the team. I thought it was a mental decision to bring him back, but he has been phenomenal, really, in the middle of the park. We've got Josh Campbell, who like sometimes struggles in games, but
He's
when
a
he's
funny player, Josh
good,
Campbell.
he's really good.
Yeah.
I had a really good conversation with my son about it. We were at St Mirren, and Campbell had a bad game at St Mirren, and I was sort of moaning about him. And what Josh says, like, Hibs aren't going to get a perfect player. So with Josh Campbell, you look at what he gives you against what you lose when he plays, and then you sort of weigh up whether it's worth it. And I think with Josh Campbell, it is worth it because what he brings to the table in terms of work rate and goals and assists, which he's pretty good for, then you can sort of live with the fact that he'll lose the ball or he'll do something a bit mental every now and again. But I think, like I talked about the back three, I think the back three are all playing well. Jordan Smith, again, touch wood, has been playing
You
well.
said it, no me.
I know. Nicky Cadden's been absolutely key. I mean, that's if I was Critchley, Nicky Cadden is a player that I'd be looking to stop. St Mirren did it; they stopped us getting the ball out wide, and we struggled to really create. And then we've got Kieran Bowie coming back in the team as well, and he looks like a proper striker. Like his goal at Tannadice on Wednesday night was brilliant. He was only on the pitch, a few minutes, and the run that he makes, the finish, it's just class. And he loves the physical battle. And in a derby, you want a player that's just going to go in and noise up their opposite number. And I think Bowie's that boy.
Yeah, I mean, similar to your argument about Campbell, I would argue the same about Rocky Bashiri, who I've honestly consistently said for 95% of the game, he's absolutely brilliant. The passion he
99.
shows, the bravery, that he's really driven that Hibs team on. And I think there's something to be said about someone that cares about the club that much and shows it on the park because Hibs have been lacking that so much in the last few seasons. Yes, he makes a blunder like he did at Tynecastle last time, and I'm sure he will be forgiven this time if he does so in tomorrow's derby. But that sort of passion is something you can't buy, and I think you make the same argument of Josh Campbell. And I agree with you. I thought he was really poor against St Mirren, and then the next week he shows first class composure is win that game against Celtic. So these are the trade offs you need to make at a club like Hibs or Hearts. Looking over the sort of border, Matt, who are you worried about tomorrow? The middle of the park's going to be a big battle, I think, for me because I think Wednesday night it went under the radar because we bounced back and ended up winning that game. There was about a spell of 20-25 minutes where we really lost the midfield. We overran a little bit in the sort of first part of the second half. Could that be key tomorrow? Do we really need to win that battle?
I think Devlin's out, isn't he? Like he's been concussed, so that's probably not a bad thing for Hibs. And Baningame is a good player, I think. But again, and I'm not trying to be funny, but I didn't really watch that much of Hearts other than when they're playing Hibs. So like I kind of rely on the stats. I know the striker's been playing well. I'm worried about him. Shankland's, even when he's off form, he's still a threat, isn't he? And then Baningame, anytime I've seen him, I've been pretty impressed with him. So I'd be interested to see how he does up against Jantis. I think that's a really good matchup in the middle.
Who's got the better manager, Adam?
Have to say Hearts, surely.
Oh, of course.
Analytics have proven it, no? No, to be fair, I thought David Gray was on the verge of the sack, so I have to, through gritted teeth, admit that it is a terrific turnaround. But if you're asking me, we had a rookie manager last season, and then got off to a shocking start the next, and before you know it, he's out the door. So I wouldn't get too
I'll
carried away.
rephrase the question because it's probably too early to tell. Who do you think will finish higher in the league, Hibs or Hearts?
Oh, why am I getting asked this first? I think the winner on Sunday will finish third. There you go.
Scott?
I think Hibs have got the advantage just now. I think, again, the way that Hearts are playing just now, it's very risk and reward. We're offering a lot of opportunities down the wings because we're playing quite a narrow midfield. And I think because of that, there will be a couple of slip-ups between now and the end of the season. Whereas, again, Hibs are very confident in what they're doing. They've got a very sort of settled back three. I think the one thing that may go against Hibs is that I think eventually the issue at goalkeeper will come back around. I don't think Jordan Smith's a long-term option for any football club. I think his career sort of points that out. And whenever I've watched him for Hibs this season, I've not been overly impressed. But yeah, I think Hibs got the advantage just now. They've got the 4-point advantage, and also I think that the way that they're setting up in games, I think they'll have less sort of bumps along the road compared to us just now.
It's an interesting one about the keeper, Matty, because how many seasons have we sat at Easter Road and thought, can we not just bring in a middle-of-the-road goalie that doesn't make too many mistakes, is pretty ordinary, and that seems to be Jordan Smith. Why would you get rid of someone like that?
Yeah, Smith is he's a funny one. He's obviously made some match-winning saves. Like if you look at St Mirren the other weekend, he has this double save, which is just like right out the top drawer. It's one of these saves that if it had been Craig Gordon that had made it, we would still be seeing the replays on Sports Scene because they absolutely love the guy. But he also looked very suspect at Celtic's goal, and he looked suspect at the goal that was disallowed on Wednesday night. You know, he sort of came for it, albeit it was a good cross. He came for it and was nowhere near it. But he has pulled out some terrific saves as well. So I think similar with Josh Campbell, was Hibs are going to get a goalkeeper that doesn't make mistakes. Like it just doesn't happen at our level. Rangers and Celtic don't have goalkeepers that don't make mistakes. I think because we've had the nightmares of folk like Zibby Malkowski and Simon Brown, there's like this sort of lingering hangover with Hibs fans that we think every goalkeeper when they make a mistake is the worst goalkeeper ever, and I don't think Smith is anywhere close to that category keeper. I think he's a steady pair of hands. He's not Buffon, but he's also not Malkowski, so he's all right.
Scott, when's Craig Gordon retiring? Can he just high up the boots already, for God's sake?
Well, the funny thing is, I mean, look, he still has those individual moments, like the save at St Johnstone last week. But to be fair, there has been a bit of a nervousness between him and the back four at times. It hasn't been as bad since McCartan Steinvender came in, but he has had some mistakes, like the the goal for St Mirren, the opener in the Scottish Cup tie a couple of weeks ago, was definitely his fault. So he's not, he's not at his peak of his powers, although he can still provide those individual moments. I think set plays, cross balls, there's always been a bit of a nervousness about Craig Gordon in those situations, and I think that's became more apparent as he's got older. So I do think he's at a stage of his career where this season's probably the last season where I think he'll be a nailed-on number one. Xander Clark signed a 2-year deal, which means he'll be here beyond the summer. So I think there'll be more of a fight between those two moving forward. We've also got a couple of young goalkeepers who are out on loan just now in Harry Stone and Liam McFarlane, so they could be pushing for a place over the next 12 to 18 months as well. So I think he's getting just towards the end. I think because he's now had a bit of a look in again at international level, he'll try and extend it as long as he can now that he's back in the international fold. But yeah, I think not at the end of this season, but by the end of next season, I would imagine he'll probably be hanging up his boots.
Well, it's been a pleasure, troops. I must press you before you go. Adam, score predictions firstly.
Heart tells me a Hearts win, but I think it might be a 1-1 draw.
Scott?
Head says 1-1, Heart says 2-1 Hearts.
Matty?
I think it's a game both teams are going to try not to lose, so I'll go with a draw 2-2.
I'm going to go 2-1 Hibs. Cheers, troops.
Cheers.